The Arizona sun blazed mercilessly across the desert plains, turning the sand into sheets of gold and fire. Sheriff Clay Donovan rode slowly through the canyons, his horse breathing heavily after hours of climbing through rough terrain. He was tracking a band of cattle thieves rumored to have fled into Apache territory, a place few white men dared to enter. The deeper he rode, the quieter the world became, until all he could hear was the whisper of wind through the sagebrush and the distant cry of a hawk. By late afternoon, Clay spotted something rare, a shimmering pool hidden among rocks and willows, its surface reflecting the orange glow of the sky. Grateful for a break, he dismounted to give his horse a drink. As he knelt by the water, a faint splash echoed from the other side of the lake. At first he thought it might be deer, but then he heard laughter, soft, melodic, unmistakably human. Curiosity tugged at him. Carefully, he moved closer through the bushes until the scene opened before him. 3 young Apache women bathed in the clear water, their laughter bright as the sunlight on the ripples. Their long black hair floated around them like ribbons of silk. They looked carefree, wild spirits untouched by the outside world. Clay froze, breath caught in his throat. He knew he shouldn't look, but he couldn't turn away either. Then a twig snapped beneath his boot. All 3 women turned sharply. For a moment, time stood still. Their dark eyes locked on him with shock and fury. Clay spun around, raising his hands. "I mean no harm," he called, stepping back. But his words meant nothing. The eldest, tall and fierce, shouted something in Apache, and within seconds, arrows sliced into the sand near his feet. "White man!" she cried, stepping boldly from the water, unashamed of her nakedness. "You have seen what no man may see and live." Before Clay could move, the other 2 women, one gentle-looking, the other fiery-eyed, were already out of the water, spears in hand. They surrounded him like lionesses cornering their prey. The sheriff's heart pounded. He had wandered into sacred ground when and now he understood the danger too late. He wasn't just trespassing on Apache land. He had trespassed into their honor. Clay Donovan's wrists burned from the rawhide ropes that bound them. The Apache warriors had dragged him from the lakeshore through miles of rocky canyon, their silence heavier than the desert heat. Now he stood in the heart of their village, a circle of huts built from hides and branches, surrounded by towering cliffs that shut out the world. Fires crackled, children stared wide-eyed, and warriors with painted faces watched him with cold suspicion. Before him sat Chief Greyhawk, an elder with hair white as snow but eyes sharp as a knife. The 3 women stood beside the fire, dressed now in ceremonial robes. Clay recognized them, the fierce one who had spoken first, the soft-spoken one whose eyes had flickered with pity, and the fiery one who still glared at him like a caged cat. NowYou, the eldest, spoke first, her voice ringing through the camp. "This man looked upon us while we bathed, a sin among our people. He saw what no stranger may see and live. The spirits demand justice." A murmur swept through the crowd. Clay's pulse quickened. "It was an accident," he protested. "I didn't mean to spy. I was looking for water, not trouble." The younger woman, Ayanna, lowered her eyes. "Maybe his heart is not wicked," she said softly. "The spirits might forgive." But Tala, the fiery one, crossed her arms. "Forgive? He saw us as no man should. If he lives, our honor dies." The chief raised a hand, silencing them all. "There is another path," he said, his deep voice echoing across the canyon walls. "If the spirits are to be appeased, the man must join our people. He must bind his life to the women he wronged." Clay blinked in disbelief. "You mean marry them?" NowYou met his gaze without flinching. "That is our law. You saw us as one. Now you must live as one." Laughter and whispers rippled through the tribe. Clay's mind raced, a marriage or death. He swallowed hard, the absurdity of it all sinking in. 3 wives, 3 lives forever bound to his? Tala smirked. "Or you hang at dawn, Sheriff." The chief's voice fell like a hammer. "Choose." Clay looked from one woman to the next, him the proud, the gentle, the wild. Then with a grim half-smile he said, "Guess I'd rather live dangerously." The sun sank low beyond the red cliffs, bathing the Apache village in a warm amber glow. Drums began to echo through the canyon, deep and rhythmic, mingling with the scent of sage and smoke. It was the hour of the joining ceremony, the moment when Sheriff Clay Donovan, a man of law from the frontier, would be bound to 3 Apache women under the eyes of their gods and ancestors. He stood near the great fire, his hat clutched nervously in his hands. Around him, the villagers gathered in a wide circle. Warriors, elders and children, all whispering, and watching the pale-skinned stranger who was about to become one of them. He felt their eyes pierce through his soul, judging whether he was worthy or foolish. The three brides emerged from a hut, transformed into living embodiments of the earth, wind, and flame. NowYou, proud and calm, wore a robe of scarlet dyed from crushed berries, feathers of the eagle woven into her hair. She walked with the grace of a queen, eyes steady on her fate. Ayana followed, gentle and radiant, her dress white as moonlight, decorated with shells that chimed softly when she moved. She carried a small bowl of water from the lake, a symbol of purity and forgiveness. Tala came last, her robe of dark leather trimmed with wolf fur, her gaze daring Clay to flinch. Sparks danced in her eyes. She was the fire he could never tame. An old shaman approached carrying a carved staff wrapped in animal sinew. He raised it to the sky. By the spirits of water, wind, and flame, he intoned, we witness the joining of hearts that fate has bound. Clay's heart pounded as the women each stepped forward. NowYou placed a strand of her hair in his hand, then Ayana, then Tala. The shaman tied them together with a single cord, binding them as one. The crowd cheered as the flames leapt higher. The sheriff tried to smile, though he felt the weight of the moment pressing into his chest. This wasn't a joke anymore. This was his new life, sealed before gods he didn't know and people he barely understood. Yet as NowYou's steady hand touched his, and Ayana's gentle eyes met his own, he felt something shift. Perhaps, he thought, the desert wasn't the only thing that could turn a man's heart to fire. Weeks passed since the strange wedding by the fire, and the man once known as Sheriff Clay Donovan was no longer the same. The desert had burned away his pride and polished him like a stone in a river. Now he moved with the rhythm of the Apache, waking before dawn to ride through the canyons, learning to track by starlight, to listen to the whispers of wind and coyote. His three wives shaped him in ways no lawman's life ever could. NowYou, the proud one, taught him discipline and strength, how to stand firm, how to speak less and observe more. She would correct his posture with a stern glance, but behind her fire, there was a deep respect growing like roots beneath stone. Ayana was his calm in the storm. She taught him patience, to weave baskets, to feel the meaning of silence. When the desert winds grew cold at night, it was her quiet presence beside him that felt like home. Tala remained wild and unpredictable. She mocked him, raced him on horseback, and sometimes argued until dawn. Yet her laughter filled the camp like sunlight after rain. Through her, Clay learned to laugh again, something he hadn't done since the wars. But peace in the canyon was fragile. One night, the echo of hoofbeats shattered it. Soldiers, his own men, rode into the valley, torches blazing, rifles ready. "Sheriff Donovan," they shouted. "We thought you were dead." They saw him among the Apaches, dressed in their garments, standing beside his wives. Confusion flashed in their eyes, then disgust. "We came to bring you home," said one lieutenant. "You don't belong here." Clay looked at the three women, at NowYou's defiant stare, Ayana's trembling hands, Tala's fierce readiness to fight. "I do belong here," he said softly, "more than I ever did back there." The lieutenant frowned. "You'd stay with them, after what they did to you?" Clay turned his horse away from the soldiers, eyes fixed on the lake that had changed everything. "They didn't do this to me," he said. "They saved me from myself." As he rode back toward the village, the drums began to rise again, slow, steady, eternal. The firelight danced across his face, reflecting in the water like twin worlds united. The sheriff was gone. In his place stood a husband, a warrior, and a man reborn in the heart of the Apache.